I'm Teisha Bader with Shalom TV's News Update. IDF forces in Hebron shot and killed a Palestinian gunman who was believed was set to carry out a terror attack at the Cave of the Patriarchs. Israel's Channel 2 reported that the man was wielding a gun, and it was believed that he planned to open fire at the Jewish holy site. Israeli troops are still in the area trying to control rioting that has erupted. The Jerusalem Post reports that U.S. Ambassador to Israel Dan Shapiro said that the U.S. understands that mutually agreed upon land swaps will have something to do with recognizing changes on the ground that have happened since 1967. But those issues, he said, have to be negotiated between the parties. Shapiro was addressing the Jerusalem Post's first annual diplomatic conference in Herzliya on Wednesday regarding construction in the controversial E1 area that connects Ma'ale Adumim with Jerusalem. Shapiro said those issues have to be negotiated between the Israelis and Palestinians. Nobody else from the outside can draw that map, and that is why we need to get those negotiations going, so those issues will be decided at the negotiating table between the parties and not by unilateral measures. Meanwhile, the Palestinian Authority has repeated their warning that if Israel does in fact build an E1, they will file charges against Israel at the International Criminal Court. PA Foreign Minister Riyad Malki told the PA's Voice of Palestine radio that if Israel does go ahead with the construction, then we would be able to prosecute Israel for all the war crimes it perpetrated against our people in the past, especially the construction of settlements. Malki added, "We are not in a rush to go to the court because we want to use this option in the right way to achieve the most effective outcome." As you may have seen on IBA News, PA President Mahmoud Abbas made the same ICC threats Tuesday during a visit to Turkey. The Times of Israel reports, citing Israel Radio, that 4 member states of the European Union reportedly opposed condemnation that the EU issued on Monday of Hamas leader Khaled Mash'al's hate speech last weekend in Gaza. The EU had come under criticism from Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu for not immediately condemning Mash'al's speech, where he called for the destruction of Israel. The EU on Monday had released a statement expressing its opposition to Israeli settlement building, and at the end included a condemnation of Hamas, saying Hamas's denying Israel's right to exist was unacceptable. According to the Israel Radio report, Wednesday, Denmark, Finland, Portugal, and Ireland had pressured European foreign ministers to only condemn Israel for the EU settlement construction plan and not mention Hamas, and that ultimately it was Germany and the Czech Republic that insisted on the Hamas rebuke. German Foreign Minister Guido Westerwelle on Wednesday acknowledged that his country was responsible for inserting the Hamas condemnation, saying, "We absolutely condemn the statements by Hamas leader Mashal. Anyone who questions the right of Israel to exist cannot be a partner for peace talks." Further saying Mashal's public pronouncements demonstrate to the world how justified Israel's security concerns are. And staying with Germany, its parliament has approved a bill that keeps male infant circumcision legal. The new law passed with 434 to 100 votes in the German parliament, granting parents the right to authorize the circumcision of their sons by a trained practitioner. The law came in response to a court ruling in Cologne earlier this year that determined that the ritual of circumcision amounted to bodily harm and was subject to criminal charges. World Jewish Congress President Ronald Lauder welcomed the vote, but noted that it was sad that the ritual came under fire in Germany of all places. Today, representatives of all major parties, Lauder said, have made it clear that the renaissance of Jewish life in Germany can and should continue. The bitter debate that followed the Cologne court ruling on circumcision has irritated and unsettled many Jews around the world, and we hope that a clear legal basis has now been put in place that will prevent the criminalization of religious circumcision in the future. The Associated Press reports that an appeals court in Bolivia has refused to release American Jewish businessman Jacob Ostreicher, who has been jailed in Bolivia for a year and a half without charges being filed against him and without bail being set. The appeals court sent Ostreicher's case back to the lower court on Tuesday, ordering the trial judge to reconsider evidence favorable to Ostreicher evidence that the trial judge had previously thrown out at the request of a Bolivian official who is now under arrest for allegedly extorting money from Ostreicher. Ostreicher was arrested in June of 2011 for allegedly doing business with people who had connections to drug trafficking and money laundering, although no evidence has ever been brought to prove this. In Bolivia, a person can be held up to 18 months without formal charges. Ostreicher passed that 18-month mark last week, after which New Jersey Republican Representative Chris Smith, who has been working for Ostreicher's release, said the Bolivian authorities now have both a constitutional and moral obligation to see to it that Jacob's case is adjudicated promptly and fairly. Smith said that he was confident that if a transparent and timely process is followed from this moment forward, that Jacob would be released and cleared of all allegations. And that's Shalom TV's news update. I'm Teisha Bader.